Okay, so we are working on our Van Gogh Elements project here, and the last thing that we're going to do on that is create this text area or the typography area here for our typography element of design. And we're just going to use any Van Gogh quote, so you can pull any Van Gogh quote off of the internet, and then we're going to format it so that it fills up our entire space. And so if we go back to our document here, what we need to do is we need to create a new layer that's based on our template layer, our layer 1. Now that should already be locked. If you will unlock that and click on your layer 1, and then we can go up to our little 4 lines here at the top right of this window and go down to duplicate layer 1, because we do want to have a just a duplicate of that. So go ahead and do that and then lock down that template again. So once you have this, you're going to create a typography layer, and you can just click here and call this typography. And then we're going to go to our type tool. Now in Illustrator, when you click and drag to draw your text box, it will set up in lorem ipsum. So lorem ipsum is just a filler text, so it's just a bunch of, to our eyes, gobbledygook, but it just shows you what the text is going to look like once you place that in there. Now, this is kind of a flowery text that I have. Yours will probably default to just a very simple text. We want to kind of have a simple text for this project. You can download texts that are going to work better. Some of the simple texts that will automatically work fairly well are Arial Black, Futura, Helvetica. Those are all some sans serif simple, I was looking at lorem, sans serif simple texts that will work for this project. I have a text here that I have downloaded called the bold font, and I am going to use that for this specific project. I'm going to go ahead and just leave this text facing upward, but if you would like to turn it, you can always go to your free transform tool here and just hold your shift key down and turn that to the side. So you can see that I did that on this other quote. So my quote is, "What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything?" I'm going to go ahead and go back to my type tool and type that in. What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? You can keep typing even if you don't see your text. Do a Command A, or you can just double click a bunch of times to make sure that you have all of that selected. And then what we're going to do is size it down. So we're going to do a Command Shift less than. You can also change your sizing up here in your options window, so that is always available for you to use as well. Notice that I have all caps right now. All caps is good to do for this because that will fill up the maximum amount of space from top to bottom, and that's what we really want to do with this. So if you can be in all caps, this font is already in all caps, so I'm good to go. Now the other thing we want to avoid is we don't want to have any words that kind of go over to the next line. So the first thing that we can kind of do here, I'm going to actually shrink this down just a little bit more. Or actually, instead of shrinking it, I'm going to type in Vincent Van Gogh. So I have that. Hit a Command A, and then I'm actually going to hold my Option key down and arrow up to start to kind of scrunch that together. So this is my spacing that I'm adjusting here. And as you can see, once I get that kind of close together, I still have a little bit of a gap down here. So I can go ahead and expand that size up and then maybe space that back out. And so it's just playing with this text, kind of going back and forth, changing it up until you have what you want. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. Now, my problem though is that I don't want this to be having a lot of gaps on the side either. I want that to kind of expand to fill up that space. So I can double click, or actually kind of click across here to select everything in a particular line, and then I can kern that out. So if I hold my Option key and use my right arrows, that will start to affect the space in between from left to right, the letters. So if I go a little bit too far, I go on to the next line. So I don't want that. So I just want to keep expanding until I go on to the next line and then, bring that back. And you kind of want to think about, let's see, how you can arrange this. So maybe I want to make courage a little bit larger, so I could hit a return to take 2 attempts at the bottom. I could take courage up to the next line and then take 2 attempts down here. And maybe with these two, I actually kern it in a little bit, although that's not going to work. Now I could also take the size down. Now, once I take the size down, though, I'm going to have to change my spacing in between had no courage and the space above, just so we can kind of make it somewhat evenly spaced. Okay, so this takes a little kind of finagling. You have to kind of work with it a little bit. Now, notice that I did not put quotes with this. You can put quotes if you would like, but you don't have to. I'm going to put a dash here, and I'm going to make Vincent a bit bigger. And then space him down. And then maybe I'll make Van Gogh a bit bigger. So again, it's that Command-Shift greater than that I'm using to make this larger, and then Option arrow keys to space this out. Now I could also move this entire thing a little bit, but that's looking pretty good. I've filled up a lot of the space. Now the last thing that I want to do with this is I'm going to go back to my type tool and Command A to select everything. And then I'm going to set my fill color to white. So when you do that, it'll look like it changed to black, but that's because you currently have that selected. So if you click off of that, that will be white. And what we want to do with this, now that we have this, is we're going to do a Command X to cut that out of that space. Now, if we go back into our layers, if we go to that layer 1 that we duplicated, so this is the duplicate of layer 1, we want to click on that, and then we want to click onto, we want everything else locked too. So make sure that everything else here is locked. There we go. And then we're going to click onto that document. So when we do that, we'll just see this line that will show up on the outside. And we're going to go to our transparency window and we're going to make a mask. Then with that mask, we are going to paste in our white letters. So we're going to Command-Shift-V to paste that in. Oops, actually, make sure you click in the mask when you do that. So Command-Shift-V to paste that in. And that should have masked it in. Now, the reason that we're not seeing it right now is because actually, let's go back here. Click back onto the image. We still have the visibility of our original layer 1 on. So if we turn that off, look at there. So we can now see our text. It looks pretty good. We can see the painting through that. Now, I'm not necessarily seeing everything in the painting, but I'm still getting a good sense for the color and the texture of that painting, and I can definitely read the text. That's the other thing that you want to make sure of, that you can definitely read the text once this is finished. So you don't want it so tight and so spaced and kerned in that it's not necessarily legible. So make sure that whatever you're doing is legible, that it's working well, and good luck